Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining us this Saturday afternoon. I know it's been a while since I did one of these, but thank you for always tuning in whenever you see the notification. Today, I have a fantastic guest. I'm not even going to waste time introducing myself. You guys already know me on this channel. My name is Faye Mac, so that's about that. But I have a fantastic guest, somebody that I really, really look up to in so many aspects of life. Mrs. Modupe Enyilaye. You guys, please drop a round of applause in the comments for our guest. Welcome, Ma.
Thank you so much, Faye. It's so lovely to be here. Thank you for having me, and hello, everyone.
Thank you. No, thank you for honoring my invite. I know that the last time we had this, it was you interviewing me. So now the tables have turned.
That
but
is so true.
yes, it's so exciting to have you on here. Mrs. Modupe Inlaye is a family lawyer here in Canada. She moved. Oh, I see Niger lawyer in Canada. Your biggest fan here already. She is amazing. She moved to Canada back in 2006 with her family, got licensed to practice law in Canada. She had a bit of a background in banking, or even an extensive background in banking. Moved here. She got an MBA at University of Western Ontario. So if you're in London, Ontario, or if you have admission to Western University, this is, your
Okay.
alumni. And she had a stint in the mortgage business as well. It's been long term. She still does that a little bit, but mainly she's a family lawyer. And I know that she runs a family law firm. So I know your husband is a lawyer as well. So tag teaming, family business. I absolutely love and admire that. But thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to do a little bit of an intro of yourself? Did I miss anything?
I think you did a fantastic job. Thank you so much. That's it in a nutshell. Hello
Yes.
again, everyone.
Yes, and you also have a talk show that you host, and it's Talk with Mo, and it sticks in my head because my sister's name is Mo as well. So, so it's something that is really amazing. You're doing a lot of work in the community, helping newcomer marriages, immigrant marriages, and even just marriages in general in Canada thrive. So I'm very excited to have you here for this topic, talking about the challenges that marriages face after relocating to Canada or even to any country, really. Right
Mhm.
now, we know that there's the Jackbar movement going on. A lot of people are moving with their families to the UK, to the US, Canada, and many other countries. And I think that there are a lot of people that are so excited about the idea of moving. And, they do, but they haven't really done the groundwork that is required for their marriage to really be sustainable and to last in this new environment that we find ourselves.
Mhm.
So that is really the topic for today. We have an Instagram post that we're going to be reading. Uh, this is a post from Miss D. Miss D fans, say hello, Niger lady in Canada. We have her permission to read this story and just use it to kickstart our conversation. Okay, and it goes like this. Hello, Miss D. My name is Tola, and I live in Calgary, Alberta. Obviously, the name is fake. With my two children. I recently separated from my husband and he has moved back to Nigeria, leaving me here with our two kids. It has been overwhelming, tedious, and sad and
Mm.
lonely. Like, I'm literally going through all the emotions, and it's a lot because I have to look after two children by myself. The marriage has been toxic right from Nigeria with physical and emotional abuse. After we separated, I invited my mom over to help with the kids. That was when he moved back to Nigeria to actually get back at me for not coming to him for help with the kids.
Mhm.
It was paining him that I was moving on, so he decided to strike back by moving back to Nigeria. So, this is me trying to be strong and move on, so I'll never have to run back to him for help. This is because the moment we are back together, the suffering will get worse, and I'm tired of suffering. Please, I want to connect with single moms in Calgary. So uh, that was her request, really. She just wanted to find people that have gone through similar experiences so that they can share ideas and brainstorm together. But that is just one example.
Mhm.
I remember after a while, people were, talking on that page saying, is it only divorce that you post? But it really just lets us realize that a lot of things are happening within our community that we don't know. And to people that we know that maybe are not comfortable enough sharing with us. And so that is really a trend that we're seeing. So I wanted to ask you, Ma, what have you seen so far in our community? Let's just start with that. What do you think about this story?
Unfortunately, this story is it's very rife, and it's common, more common than we would like to think. It's the same narrative, whether it's this is from Calgary, whether it's in Calgary, whether it's in Ontario, Nova Scotia, wherever it is. And it's not only prevalent within the Nigerian communities, which I would like to draw people's mind to. It is just common. It's a factor of migrating that many people have not turned their minds to. Like you rightly said, it's exciting to think about a new beginning. It's exciting to leave your home country and say, I am heading to Canada or to England or to Australia. The excitement bit is the smallest part of it. What I'm finding more and more is there's resentment because there was not a lot of discussion about the move. One party is excited to move, the other might be excited but not ready to move. And ready because maybe they need to settle their businesses before they leave, or to sell their businesses, or even to get finish a degree. Whatever it is, people are not talking, and it leads to resentment because one person's excitement is rubbing off on the other party, and the other party does not want to seem like a downer.
Hmm.
And they like, okay, we're going to make this work, and they head out. But heading out is just the beginning, because they head out into this great uncertainty, great unknown, and suddenly it's no longer one resentment, it's two resentments,
Hmm.
leading to a lot of breakdown. And yeah, the story goes on. So, unfortunately, this is representative of what we do see out there in many immigrant communities.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Can we go right into some of the challenges? So let's just talk about the top three. What are some of the challenges that you see in your line of work, in your community, in even in your extracurricular activities? Because I know you do work outside of work, relating to marriage counseling and things like that. So, what are some of the top challenges that you see?
Well, on the top of my head, you have integration. There's social integration. There's unemployment. Um, there's family disruption. And if you think about it, they're all linked one way or the other. So people leave their countries. And I don't want to use just Nigeria because this is happening in different other immigrant communities as well. So they leave their countries and they get here. But there's a shock. There's a social shock. There's shock in everywhere, really, when they look, because suddenly the way they parent isn't how they are supposed to parent. Suddenly the way they conduct their marital affairs seems wrong.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of disconnect in that. So they are not able to integrate into the community very well as they thought they would. So that's the first shocker. And that begins to rub off into the home front, right? And the wife is kicking back, or the husband is kicking back, saying, hey, one of us has found job. It's no long more like before. So if I am working, you should be able to help with the dishes so that when I come back from work, I'm not in the kitchen sweating it all out while you're watching Major League Soccer.
Hmm.
Or the wife is saying, hey, I have been home all day. I am working, or rather taking care of the kids. I know you have gone to work, but hey, I still need help picking up the kids from extracurricular. So suddenly we don't have the domestic staff that we used to have in Nigeria anymore. We don't have the drivers. We don't have the house help. We don't have the gardeners. Hey, you need to mow the lawn. Hey, you need to clear the snow. And all of that is adding to the stress on the marriage. So it's leading to a lot of family disruption. But if you add unemployment, then you have a big effect on that, because now the unemployment bit affects, it just brings everything to bear, because you're not able to afford basic things, which is causing more strife at home. And for the men, it rubs on their male ego. If they were once the provider, and now if for any reason the woman is the one working, they see that as a slight, they see that as an ego slap, and it affects a lot of things in marriage. Yes, Western gender roles, culture shock. All of this is what you get. So the top three will really be unemployment. It will be integration, cultural and social integration. It will be the disruption to the family. We see there are other things like access to education and healthcare. I wouldn't say that is a big deal within the Nigerian communities, but this affects other African communities. And the reason for that is a Francophone African is coming into Ontario, for example, where English is usually used to taught. Although we're bilingual, but access to French school is not as much as access to English. So there's a disconnect there right away. And if there's unemployment, the kids are not able to attend the schools they should be attending. University is not free for all. So you find that there's that disparity right there, all because, I mean, if you look at it, it's all trickling down. Unemployment, you can drive it down to the fact that the kids are not able to afford what they ought to afford, which further leads to social disconnect for the children and even for the parents. So it can go on and on, but the top of my mind, these are the top three.
Absolutely. Thank you for all these points you've made. And even on top of unemployment, I'd like to point out underemployment, because
Underemployment.
even as an individual, most people that move to Canada from Nigeria, they're moving
Mhm.
as skilled workers because it's through the economic immigration programs that we have in Canada, and that's how most of us moved here. Now, that means that you were a skilled worker back in your home country.
Right.
You were okay in your home country. Sometimes you were very good in your home country, and you move here, and for a lot of people, they're starting afresh.
Hmm.
For a lot of people, they're starting from scratch. Now, it's not everybody that has to start from scratch, but for a lot of people, it's not as easy to integrate into corporate Canada as they expected.
Hmm.
And so you find yourself, yes, you're employed, but it's not the kind of industry that you thought you would see yourself in. We had a video recently about why immigrants are, or why people in general are leaving Canada, and one of the topics that came up was the fact that for regulated professions it's so difficult to get relicensed here in
Right.
some professions, like doctors. We have a lot of doctors doing odd jobs.
Hmm.
That alone, even as a single person, it messes with your psyche. Now imagine coupling that with the fact that you have a family to cater for, there are pressures of inflation and the economy in general that is going through, what a lot of people think is supposed to be a recession right now. So there's so many nuances to it that these challenges find a way to rear their heads. Now, moving forward, a couple has relocated, they're experiencing these issues. How do they resolve it? What are the first few steps that they should be taking to ensure that this doesn't balloon out of control?
That's a great question. I'm just the messages coming up, popping up. I'm looking at those messages. It's a great
Very.
question. I mean, there's when they find themselves here, you're already here. My first advice is make it work. Make it work. It took a lot to get out of whatever country you're coming from to get here. You have made it this far, right? You should make it work. And how do you do that? Try to resolve all of this difference. So the first thing is, if you can integrate socially, find people that are from the same background. And the reason for that is it makes it easier for you to know that there's someone else like me who's going through the same things that I'm going through. And I find when people get to this country, they want to adapt so fast that they want to forget their heritage, their culture. But I find that those who have struck a balance are doing so better because that culture is part of you. You are steeped, if I should use that word, in that culture. Many people that come here have at least attained adulthood. So imagine trying to undo 25 years in 3 weeks, in 1 year. That's what many people are trying to do. So community support is important. Seek out community organizations, seek out network support that offer assistance that can help you integrate. And sometimes it will look like having a mentor. People, when they hear mentors, they think career. But you need a social mentor as well as a career mentor. A social mentor to let you know that, hey, I understand you. I was here. I've been in your shoes. It's okay not to be okay for now because you're going to be okay. And if you hear that as an immigrant, it gives you hope to know that, wow, they walked this journey that I'm walking and they're doing fine. So I'm going to be fine. And then it makes you to begin to not only restore hope, but to reorient yourself and say, what did they do right? So looking for that, mentorship programs which connects newcomers to different support services. And then you need to find a way to be economically stable. How to do that is to let down your pride. We talked about underemployment, we talked about unemployment, but other people from different other communities, immigrant communities, are getting by and doing better. Yes, you may be a doctor. It's not going to kill you to continue studying while driving an Uber. It's not going to kill you. You may be a lawyer. It's not going to, I know many lawyers who worked as security guards while taking the NCA exams. Today, they own their practices and they're doing well. So there are many ways that you can go around it. But when you push that pride in front, then it just kills everything else. Um, those are the first things I'll say, get a hold on. Find how you can be economically stable. Communicate, communicate, communicate. If you have a partner, you cannot do but communicate with your partner. You're both here. Remember that you're both new together. One person didn't get a head start than the other, right? So communicate. And I find there's usually a disconnect with couples who don't communicate. You see one person going to buy the new Mercedes while the other is saving to put money down for a down payment. But because there's no communication, one party believes, let me live my life YOLO, you only live once, and the other person is is saving to buy a house. So there's a huge disconnect because the expectations have not been communicated and everybody's going their own way. It's a pressure cooker waiting to bust is what in that situation.
Absolutely. And I like that you brought up finances in that conversation, because at the end of the day, financial literacy is different in different areas of the world.
Mhm.
You know, here we have a credit system, we have a mortgage system. It's
Taxes.
different. Yes, we have huge taxes on everything. So it's different from, what a lot of us are used to. We know that we pay taxes back home. We know that but it just doesn't hit you the same way that it hits you here.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
seeing the cost of housing, especially for us in Ontario or BC and, some provinces that have a higher cost of living, you
Mhm.
you look at it and you're like, wow, this is quite a lot. Imagine, one person wanting to live in a certain area that is, filled with $1 million homes, and another person wanting to go and manage in a small town that they can buy a house for half the price. And then that communication is now lacking on top of that. That is a huge, it can become huge. But in a situation where these things happen and they try these techniques that we've shared and
Mhm.
it's not working.
Mhm.
There might be somebody watching now that is experiencing issues in their marriage or that knows somebody that is experiencing issues in their
Mhm.
marriage and it is not working. Like the example that we gave, there was abuse involved.
Right.
That completely changes the conversation. In that kind of situation, what can a person do moving
In an
forward?
abusive situation.
Yes.
Unfortunately, abuse is something that is so much downplayed, uh, not only within the Nigerian community, but I think in many um, communities. The victims are so sympathetic towards their abusers that they don't want to, and sometimes they are powerless. In most cases, they don't even know that they are being abused.
Mm.
For example, I spoke with I did a seminar and a lady came up to me to say that from what you described, I might have been in an abusive situation. I said, how so? And she said, well, I've always believed that until not until you have been beaten have you been abused. But that's just physical. Physical abuse is abuse just as much as the non-physical abuse, the verbal, the emotional, the psychological abuse. I had a client that the husband never touched her, but when she sees him, she was petrified, literally. And that was because of the way he has abused her, psychologically, verbally, that she's so afraid to see him. Um, she's in my office and she's looking out the window. Is he coming? Is he coming? Is he coming? And that is abuse. So what should you do? The first thing I would advise anyone who's being abused to do. And I think we need, as a community, before I get into that, as a community, as a people, I think we should do more to educate ourselves about what abuse is and what abuse isn't. Many people still do not know what abuse or what constitutes abuse. So that'll be a discussion for another day. However, if you find yourself in an abusive situation, financial abuse, for example, where the man or the woman is the one who, because we often think that abuse is just from the men to the women. However, it's two sides, it's two ways. But the men sometimes are too proud to come out to say they've been abused by the women. But it goes. I want to be clear here. Abuse goes both ways. So
Yeah.
if you find a spouse who's, for example, who makes the money in the home and who decides, well, I will pay the mortgage only if you do ABC, for example, that is abuse. Um, I've had a situation where the partner who made the money told the other partner, I would only pay the mortgage if you agree to oral sex and swallow the semen.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, she didn't know she was being abused. She felt, well, that is the only thing that pleases him, and and if I don't do that, he won't do. So it got to the point where if she didn't do it, she got tired and she said, "Well, I can do it, but I don't have to swallow the semen." And at the end of the day, it was like, well, if you're not going to do that, I will not provide food. So there was no food at
That's
home,
awful.
and this was the second marriage. There were no children. This was the young lady who just got married to this guy less than 3 years, and there will be no food at home. Over the weekend there will be a can of sardine on the table,
Mm.
and that was it. So she didn't think it was abuse until a friend came to visit her and said, you're going through abuse. So in that situation, find someone that you can confide in. Reach out to organizations. Sometimes within the Nigerian community, they don't want other people to know their business. They don't want other people to know that this is going on. Fine. If you want to do so, find safety. There are lots of organizations that provide safety. In Ontario, there are lots of helplines. There's the Assaulted Women's Helpline, and I can provide that info to you so that you can post later on if you will. But there's a toll-free number, is the 1-866-863-0511. For anyone listening, it's an Assaulted Women's Helpline. If you've been assaulted, It doesn't matter, although it's called the Assaulted Women's Helpline. Men have also been known to call this number, and so they will offer support and information to those who are experiencing abuse, including domestic violence. In Ontario, there's also 211, and 211 is popular in all provinces. It might not be 211 in your province, it might be 311, but find out what it is. And in Ontario, dial 211 or visit Ontario 211 on their website, and then you find a lot of information. You find shelters, you find respite centers, and all of this information are there. And like I said, they're local shelters. You might also want to seek legal advice, because sometimes you might not be clear. Am I being abused? Am I abused, or or am I not being abused? Seek um, a lawyer's opinion. Find out, and sometimes you can do so for free. Some lawyers offer a 15 to 30 minutes free consultation. I offer 15 minutes free consultation. You can call me on the phone and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. And of course, I may not be able to give you an advice. And I tell people I'm not giving you advice because I can give you an opinion. You're not my client, so I can't give you an advice. I can only advise my clients. But I can give you an opinion and say, yeah, it looks like, it sounds like, and then point you to the right direction. But it doesn't hurt you to use those 15 minutes, free consultations. There's also legal aid. For those who might really want legal help but are not able to afford it, there's legal aid. And then, for many people, it's hard to leave the abuser. They think, if I leave, how can I fend for my children alone? Like this woman in Calgary, she was bold enough to leave, and she's feeling the backlash already. And many people seeing that, who are still in abusive situation, will be afraid to leave, because the abuser is using control as a mechanism to continue to abuse even after she's left. She's separated, but he's getting back at her now because she went to get her mom for help. So that continues to go on. But if you plan to leave an abusive situation, get a plan. If you're able, save some money, create a safety plan, which includes details of where you will go if you are leaving. So you might want to stay with a friend, you might want to stay in a shelter, but you don't just pack your things and leave, right? Create a plan. And the plan, it doesn't have to be 1 year. But as you can also be speaking to a lawyer, you can be speaking with a shelter social worker. They're very good in helping you to create that plan and say, okay, this is a situation. You can live on at so and so date. We have beds available for you and the kids. And all of that are ways to help you to cope with that. But if you find yourself in a dire or harmful situation, then you really want to call 911. You want to get the police involved. If it's an ongoing abuse, I always advise people, make a diary, diarize this abuse, diarize the abuse, because it will help you remember what has been going on, and you can always use that as evidence. Dates don't lie. This happened on this day, this happened on this day, right? So just make a journal of what's been going on so that you can document it. Maybe not just for court or for the police, but it might be helpful when you go to counseling, if you decide to go that route, a counseling route. And that's another thing we can also talk about.
Well, there's so much to unpack there, but I'm watching the time, and I also want us to talk about people who are not experiencing abuse. What can they do in a situation where there's no resolution? They've already done marriage counseling, they've tried to improve their communication, and they see that this union is just not working, and we just have to go our separate ways. In that situation, what is the way forward? Are there, I'm guessing there are no shelter options for people who are experiencing that, but like, what are some of the resources available? I know you've said that you offer a free 15 to 20-minute consultation, which is fantastic. And there's also legal aid. But can we talk more a little bit about maybe those and then some other opportunities that are available for people who just need to
Absolutely. I
speak?
mean, at that point, when you find out that, or when you have come to the point where you both, or maybe just one person is saying, this is not working, this, I can't go on like this isn't working, and you have made up your mind to leave the marriage. Divorce is expensive. It doesn't have to be. And I tell all of my clients, it does not have to be. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be messy. It's sad that many people live there. They will be probably married for 20 years, they'll be married for 15 years, 10 years, and they want me, the lawyer, to decide their lives for them. Think about it. That's what they're doing. Or the judge whom they're going to meet for less than 2, 3 hours to decide their entire lives for them. So I always like to break it down that way to the clients. I say, look, what you're doing is you're paying me to decide your 10 years together. How am I going to do that? You know each other best. You know who's going to be agreeable and who's not going to be agreeable to this, what you're proposing. So if you can both sit down and say, hey, it's not working. How can we make this less painful? I always advise that. So you can sit down and draft a separation agreement where it can be less painful. A separation agreement costs, I have not seen one that costs more than 5,000. I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any. And that is like, you have to be like the top lawyer, right? So between 1,800 to 2,500, you should get a decent separation agreement done. And that separation agreement will it will itemize how you are both going to care for the children if there are children in the marriage, who's going to take care of the children on this day and on that day. If the children are going to live with one of the parties, what is the visiting schedule going to look like for the party who doesn't have the children with them all of the time? How much are we going to be splitting for child custody? All of that, everything can be agreed upon, and the court will just put a stamp and say, yeah, great, well done, good job. But it gets expensive where people decide to get back at each other. And it's useless, because essentially you don't want to pay 350 or 400 as child support every month, but you're fine paying that per hour to your lawyer. Like, think about it. So I always break it down for people like that. I see Uyi asking about a prenuptial agreement. It helps, but unfortunately, within the Nigerian community, and I'm going to talk about the Nigerian community, I work with other mostly Caucasians. It's not a problem. They love prenuptial agreements. I mean, at least the ones I have worked with, they don't mind it. They come, they sit down, and they agree, and we draft a prenuptial agreement. But within the Nigerian community, are you praying for my marriage to scatter? Over my death? God forbid. You know, and all of that does not help. There's nothing, because of the way society is, the trajectory is going, actually helps the prenuptial agreement will be smart to do. Because these days you find people who just want marriage for the status of it, and when they're tired, they want to change their status on Facebook. And that's it, and that's the kind of marriages we have these days. So if that's what you're working with, then you're better off with a prenuptial agreement.
Okay, so we have a question here asking, if people have narcissistic partners, having a
Yeah.
separation agreement, is it that easy to get them to agree to those kind of things?
You see, everyone has a what do you call it, a price. Okay, to that narcissistic partner, there will be a lawyer that can appeal to them. And I always tell people, for everyone, there's a price. Many of them is the control. Narcissism is all about control. And so if you have a narcissistic partner who's always wanted control, there are ways your lawyer will work with them. I've had clients with such partners, and I say to them, sir, this separation agreement actually is going to be beneficial for you, because you're going to be saving money. If we go to court, you're going to pay X amount, and it's going to drag on for this month along. And some of them will say, I don't mind, I just want to punish her for daring to leave. I've had a client who said, I want to punish, not, it wasn't my client, I want to punish her for daring to leave. I say, okay, fine, that's great, but you do know that you're also punishing yourself in case it's not clear. And they go back and forth, back and forth. At the end of the day, it's done, right? It's done. It might not be as easy in that situation, but it's possible and it's been done. We've done this over and over. So don't let that deter you. The fact that you have a narcissistic partner, don't let it be a deterrent to seeking what do you call it now? A separation agreement or even mediation. Mediation might not work because they are controlling, but you might be able to mediate some and not all of the issues. And many people don't understand that mediation does not necessarily have to settle all of the issues. He might decide, I'm not leaving the home, I'm not going to give her the home, right? But yeah, she can have the children. She can, so that you can do mediation for a parenting plan. You can have mediation for a parenting agreement and everything else. And then you can take the issue of the house to court to settle that. So you can have agreements in piecemeal.
Right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask because I know you mentioned that divorce can be expensive. So I want us to get into numbers. I know you've mentioned, the cost, the range for an agreement, but what about if people decide to actually go to court? What is the amount that they're looking at? Can we get like real life example or a
Uh-huh.
breakdown?
It gets interesting. Like I said, there's no clear-cut answer to that. And I'm gonna tell you because I've represented lots of divorces where which in a particular case it's it was done in about 18 months. In another case, 5 years we were still on the same matter. So I mean the client is will end up paying about 30 to 40,000 in 4 years or 5 years than a 10 to 15,000 in a year or 18 months thereabout. It gets expensive because of court appearances. Okay. Now, if it is just a divorce, so if let's clear things out. So two people married for let's say 10 years, agree it is no longer working. They have two kids. They want to do this amicably. It will not cost them more than 5,000, just to say. And the reason I say 5,000 is I don't know which lawyer is going to work with them, but they might want to come up with a separation agreement, say 2,500 or 2,000 plus tax, right? So you are in the 2,500 range. Then you file your divorce papers in court. That's it's all you have is filing fees and maybe fees for the lawyer. You can't go over 5,000. I mean, from my experience in that. So you're being smart. You're saying, hey, this should not drag on. It's ended. Shouldn't be painful.
Mhm.
Let's get real. So 5,000 should do the job. However, where I find people being stupid, and I say stupid because they drag this on, they pay a lot of money, and they get the same result they would have gotten 4 years back,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, so it can get pretty expensive. And I tell clients, it doesn't matter. The monetary aspect is not the expense, really. People look at finance as the expense. It's the breakdown. It's the emotions. It's the mourning. It's the children. If they're involved, you're disrupting lives of the man, of the woman. It can never be the same.
Hmm.
So it is expensive in that's where I look at it. It's expensive. And you find some people say, oh, I went to family court, I won the case. And I look at them, you can't be serious. You didn't win. Nobody won in this case. The family is disrupted, is broken down. Yes, I go and as a lawyer, you're like, okay, thank God I won that case or I won that motion. As a lawyer, yes, you think you won it, but you look at the family and there's no win. Really, there is no win. It's just it's tragic if
Yeah.
there's any word.
Thank you so much for sharing that because, people don't think about even the psychological effects of the entire process.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you know that it could have been one and done and everybody's okay and they move on with their lives, but like years and years of not just financial expenses, but
Yeah.
even mental expenses. Your time is also money. If you
Mm-hmm.
could monetize that, then that even goes higher in terms of how much you've lost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, well, first of all, before we move on, if you haven't hit the thumbs up button, I don't know what you're waiting for. Are you not learning from this conversation? Please hit the thumbs up button. That's what lets me know that these are topics that are actually important to you and that they're actually relevant to the community that we have here. So please hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with your friends and family. It's going to be on this channel after the live session. So share it with anybody that you know is moving to Canada or has recently moved to Canada or has even lived in Canada for a while,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're single, just so that they can learn. There are so many resources that have already been shared here. Hotlines for anybody experiencing abuse, legal aid information, even information for Mrs. Senyilaye for how to actually get a free consultation with her. So don't sleep on that. Share it with anybody that you think will need this or that needs it right now. I wanted to get into therapy, and we've talked a little bit about that, but I wanted us to get into the place of counseling and therapy in this
Mm-hmm.
entire process from like end to end. From the moment you start experiencing issues, and to be honest, therapy is not for people that are experiencing issues only. You can have an amazing marriage or an amazing life and still go to therapy because it
Mm-hmm.
helps you. So, what is the place of therapy in this entire process of a marriage to even the end?
I'm glad you mentioned that therapy is not for people who are going through, and that's the misnomer. Lots of people think I only have to go and see a therapist when my marriage is failing or a counselor. But actually, the place of therapy or counseling cannot be overestimated in marriages, or overemphasized in marriages. And the reason is because therapies and counselors help in a lot of ways, right? So they help with conflict resolution, for example. Um, Conflict resolution, like I say, one party is coming to Canada, both parties are coming to Canada, and they get here before they realize, well, the other party didn't really want to leave Nigeria in the first place. So they are here, and how do you communicate that? Some people have been married for years, but they can't communicate such things strategically. So a therapy section can help you uh, communicate constructively in a marriage, right? Which will lead to effective communication that can prevent a divorce, that can prevent a breakdown. You have improved communication through therapy. Someone is speaking, but the other is not hearing, and all they're hearing is talking. But are you talking or is someone actually listening? So, how do we put two of you together to make sure that when A is talking, B is listening, and when B is talking, A is listening? So, improved communication, it can help couples to enhance their communication so that they understand each other's needs, they understand their feelings, they understand their expectations of each other. So, when all of those are combined, what you have is an enhanced marriage. And where there has been maybe issues of betrayal, infidelity, counseling helps. Now, you must remember that counseling is should be a safe place where it is unbiased, where it's non-judgmental. It's a safe space for couples to come. It should be a healing space. But what I find is that, and this is where you need to be very careful in the kind of counselors or therapists that you choose. If you're going to go with a church ordained or church whatever referred therapists or counselors, have to be careful because sadly most Nigerian churches don't understand counseling in marriage. I've had and I say this very apologetically to those who are doing it well, because we have several counselors, great counselors in many Nigerian churches. But there are some who believe that the woman should be silent,
Hmm.
the woman should endure abuse, and the woman should be long suffering,
Hmm.
for example. And so when there's an issue in the marriage and they go and see such counselors, it's going to be one sided. And the woman leaves feeling unheard, which exacerbates the whole thing. So be careful in the kind of therapist that you choose, and the kind of counselors. You don't necessarily have to go with a church counselor if you feel they are not listening. The role of a counselor is to provide a safe space so that both parties are heard, both parties feel valued, and they feel heard when they leave. They don't need to feel worse off than when they came. So, I mean, there are lots of counseling helps with intimacy and sexuality. Lots of women struggle with sex in the marriage. Lots of women, the man wants it on top, the woman prefers it on the underneath. He likes it this way and she doesn't like that style, and what should be enjoyed becomes really, really a time of war. And before you know it, there's actually rape going on in the marriage because the
Hmm.
woman is afraid, she's tight, she really doesn't want to, and the man says, "What's wrong with you? Are you not my wife?" And he gets his way and say, "Pele."
Hmm.
That in itself is an abuse. And so you need a counselor to tell you, hey, it's okay. It's not strange for you not to want sex. It's not. But how can we help you get better? That is the work of a therapist. And from you, man, she doesn't like it on top. Is there a way we can meet here? So it actually improves marriage. So like you rightly said, it doesn't have to be a huge problem or a problem to go to a therapist. And let's forget about the stigma. There should be no stigma for going to therapists, right? If you find a good counselor, you can actually have a thriving, healthy marriage. That's the role of counselors.
Well, that's amazing. And to be honest, like I kind of chuckled a little bit because then the conversation of sex for people from where we are from, it's very strange to have that
Mhm.
conversation with somebody else.
Yes.
But being open-minded, you're in a new country, you're experiencing new challenges, you should be open to new solutions or new opportunities and ways to resolve issues that you're
Mhm.
facing, or
True.
even if they're not yet issues, but things that you see as risks that could lead to issues for the
Absolutely.
marriage. um
Absolutely. I find that the environment also is a stressor for many newcomers in their marriage because everybody is trying to make a way, they're trying to find a way, and that is weighing on the party. So the last thing one of the parties want is sex, and the other party is ready to go, and this causes a friction in the home. And when 2 days become 1 week and 1 week becomes 1 month of no sex, they're both edgy, they're both angry, and it's leading to a disruption. But if you're able to find a therapist to talk to both of you and say, hey, it's okay, but I find, like you rightly said, people are not willing to be open about this. But there's really nothing. I speak to a lot of young marriages on sex and sexuality. I mean, we all know you're doing it. So what's your problem? Or you should be doing it. So
it's
so
not a secret.
yeah.
I think that speaks a lot about our culture and our
Mhm.
society and the things that are hush hush for us. There's a lot to do with culture and society, like even just the gender roles and how that could lead to issues. And we've talked a
Absolutely.
little bit about that in the beginning. But I also like that you mentioned the concept of rape in marriages. That is a concept that a lot of people think, there's no
Strange.
such thing. There is such thing. And it's very unfortunate because at the end of the day, here, I mean, anywhere in the world, rape should not even,
Mm.
it shouldn't even be a question of is that a thing or is that not, whether you're married or not. It shouldn't be a question of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's very important to call out. Thank you for that. There's this comment that came up, and I wanted to highlight it. And it says, "Fun fact: this sweet lady, gifted me a really nice suit about 17 years ago when I worked as a bank teller in Lagos, Nigeria. She would come cash a check from time to time in my branch, and I can't forget her." Can you imagine? From how many years ago?
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
that's nice. Who's the
Her
is it
name is
you?
Tara. No,
Wow.
her name is Tara.
Oh, her name is Tara. Oh
Yes,
wow.
yes.
When I worked as a bank teller in Lagos, Nigeria, she would come cash a check from time to time in my branch. Can't forget her. Nice.
Yeah, so lovely. See, small world, small world, and that's a testament to like how amazing you are. To be honest, like
Was she
I
referring to me?
yes,
That I gifted her a suit?
yes.
Can't remember her. I'm reading it. I'm like, I'm not drawing the connection. I'm so
I
sorry, Tara.
yeah. Yeah,
Hi.
so she said Bola, who worked at Intercontinental Bank at Keju
Ah,
branch, and she worked at Zenith. Because you were a
yes,
banker back in Nigeria.
I worked
So
in
it checks
Zenith.
out.
I did. Oh wow. Hi. I hope we connect after this.
Yes,
I
definitely
hope we
reach out
connect after.
to
Please,
Mrs.
yes, Tara,
Ainayo on
please reach out
Instagram.
to me.
Yeah.
I'd love to reconnect.
We'll give more information about how you guys can reach her at the end. But let's also talk about some top tips. I mean, you are a fantastic lawyer in this industry here in Canada. You've seen it all. Um, what are, say, three or four of your amazing tips that you would give to couples that are just relocating to Canada or that have just relocated to Canada to help them sustain their marriages?
That's great. You know, couples relocating are facing unique challenges as they try to adapt to their new environment. So that in itself is already stressful. So my first tip is you're not enemies. Be each other's friends. The first one. Be each other's friends. Be each other's huge support system. Um, the transition can be tough. So leaning on each other for support will be great. Sadly, many people find that if my husband gets a job first and I'm not getting a job, he's getting ahead. But this is not, you are in it together. And if there's any way they can reorient their mindset to remember that we're in this together, that would go a long way. Secondly, communication. Communicate. I can't emphasize that enough. Communicate, communicate, communicate. You need to communicate your joint goals. You need to communicate the expectations you have. You need to communicate your parenting style. If you had a koboko or whatever under the bed in Lagos, you can't have that anymore. So, how do we discipline jointly to the effect that we want our kids to be grounded, but we still want to discipline them in an acceptable, socially and culturally acceptable within the Canadian system? How do we do that, right? How do we parent these kids? Should the kids come to mommy and say, I want ice cream? Mommy says no, and then daddy says yes. It leads to breakdown in the marriage. So communicate goals, expectations, and then the third one is you need to be culturally, socially integrated. And that might look like what that might look like will be different for different people. Some people are introverts, but regardless, you are in a new culture, you're in a new environment. Whatever it is, it's always fun to see other people from your community, whether you're from Zambia or from Uganda or from Nigeria. It's always fun to see people. You sit down together, have a meal of jollof rice, find people, that community, seek community, connect with other immigrants. They can provide support. The resources that you're looking for, somebody might have done the research already and is ready to give to you. And I think those are my top three. So communicate, lean on each other for support, seek community, and try as much as possible to integrate and adapt to the new culture. You can't say this is Canada, but I'm still the man of the house,
Hmm.
and it goes south pretty quickly from there on. And if I might add just one more, take care of your mental health. Mental health is key. There's no, I don't know why people keep thinking of this stigma about mental health, but lots of people are not diagnosed. They're actually going through. And I tell people all the time that everybody has a mental health issue. Everybody walking, because you have days when you are depressed. But that's situational or environmental. It comes on, but it doesn't mean that you're crazy, you know? So that,
Very,
and Marina says, be willing to unlearn and relearn. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And that comes with adaptability, integration.
yes. I absolutely agree. And there's something you mentioned that I wanted to highlight. There's something you said about if one spouse gets a job first, the other spouse feeling, because this is a topic that a lot of people don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it almost feels like there's a competition
Mm-hmm.
between spouses.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a competition. When we're looking, like I'm a mortgage agent, and my you are also in the mortgage industry. We're looking at household income. As long as both of you are going to be on that mortgage, it's
Mm-hmm.
your household income and your household expenses that matter. There's no looking
Absolutely.
at, oh, this one is this and this one. It comes together as one eventually, in total. So if one person is rising through the ranks way more than the other person that used to be the one that, had the better job back in their home country, it is a win for both parties. It is a win for the family.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a salary bump, it's not just, oh, I individually got a salary bump. No, our household
Household
income
income has
increased.
increased.
There's joy in that. What, like,
I know. It can be frustrating when you see or hear these things, but unfortunately, that is what transpires in many homes, and I want to believe that it's prevalently the men. They can't, in most cases, and I'm not generalizing, there are some men who have been able to handle this well. And I'm going to speak to a young man who I was recently speaking with, and he said he had to go back to the table and say, wait a minute, yes, she's working. Yes, she has a great job, but I don't have a job yet. So how can I support her so that she can keep that job? So he started picking up the kids from school. He will take them to the extracurricular activities, and he was just helping. And he says their marriage has never been better. And they had made the decision that he shouldn't work because she has a good job. It's better actually for their taxes, right? So that's what they're doing. He's very, very involved in community. He's involved in other things. So he's actually very, very engaged right now. But she's the one working. So
and it
it's
works.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
So it gets
I
better.
want I have a question, and I'm glad that you mentioned that you have, the free 15 to 20-minute consultation pro bono for people that need it. How can people reach out to you? Where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. The Instagram page that is very active is the Talk with Mo, is the talk show page. You can send me a DM on that page. Lots of people, because Talk with Mo is about community and involvement in community. So you can actually send a DM to me on that page. My cell number, I can't give it out here, unfortunately, so I don't get spammed. But my email address is mo at twmstudios.com. TWM will be Talk with Mo. So mo at twmstudios.com. Or you can reach me also at me at ehinlailaw.com. So any of those emails will get to me, and yeah, I'm happy to to help the way I can, in any way that I can.
Yes. Thank you so, so much for joining us today, Ma. It's been an amazing conversation. I'm sure that people have learned so much from this. And I know that, with this video being on here, it's going to continue to provide a balance to the newcomer experience or the immigrant experience in Canada. One thing I try to do on my channel is not push Canada as heaven or in an unrealistic lens. It's a
Mhm.
country like any other. It has its flaws, it has its upsides, and it's not even about the country. It's about the fact that you have now moved to a new country and now you have to do your best to adapt. There's so many
Mhm.
things we mentioned that are different here. Gender roles, how you raise your kids. There's nothing like Bankera and Koboko because it can land you in serious trouble with the law. And
Absolutely.
there's so many different aspects to it. Even finances, financial literacy here can be a bit different. Investing in the stock market, investing. There's so
Mhm.
many different situations. Some concepts that are common, but are done in
Once.
different ways that we have
Mhm.
to learn and unlearn in certain ways. So I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation to just provide a balance. Things are happening. It's not all chummy. You have a friend that relocated and they don't pick your color. They might be going through something. So understand that life is lifing for a lot of people, and
Mhm.
just be that person that is not going to put more pressure on people. People are already experiencing a lot of pressure here,
Yeah.
so just help in your own little way and also share with the people that you have confidence in, people that you can confide in, so that you don't bottle things up. You
Absolutely.
mentioned therapy already. There are many ways that you can seek therapy.
Mhm.
So definitely look into those kind of. There are even things like all this massage, things that you get from your work benefits. Use them. Don't say, oh, you don't use them. Go for your massage. Claim it with your work. They'll pay for it. Just enjoy life and do your best to be intentional in your relationship with your spouse. Be considerate. That is one thing that I love, being considerate. So thank you so much for the conversation. I'm putting the email address here, mo@twmstudios.com. You can reach out to Mrs. Ayinlaye, and I'm sure you're going to learn a lot from her, like I do every single time we have a conversation. Thank you so much, Mar, for joining us. Do you have any closing words for
I just
us?
want to say thank you, Faye. You're doing a fantastic job. And really, thank you. Like you said, it's not all chummy. And thank you for positioning Canada like that so that people are not novices, they're not ignorant about what's going on here. So you are showing the real picture. And I just want to thank you for doing that. You're doing an awesome job in the community. Thank you so very much as well. And thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I'm happy that I've been able to connect with all of you. Thank you for joining. And Tara, I'm looking forward to connecting properly with you after this show. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. Make sure you reach out to her on Instagram or by email. But yes, again, thank you so much, Ma, for coming on. I know you have a very busy schedule, so I feel very honored that you were able to make it today. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah,
And for
thank you.
everybody that tuned in, thank you for tuning in. This video will be here. You can always watch it again and again, and share it with anybody that needs it. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.